Donald Trump says that he would love to have someone of your strength in his administration. When you take a look at the cabinet, is there a particular area you think would line up best with your strengths, a position you'd want to serve in?
That's a great question. I think a lot about the Department of Energy because energy is my baby. Oil and gas and minerals, those things that God has dumped on this part of the earth for mankind's use.
It really doesn't surprise me to hear someone like Sarah Palin saying something like this. She's been outspoken about her drill here, drill now ideology. But one thing I find intriguing about this statement is her use of religion to back it up, largely due to its irony. Although bringing that irony out requires the right sort of lens. In this case, Jean-Luc Marionn's God Without Being, a text that is, broadly speaking, concerned with sketching out a Christian lens for seeing the world. Marion is largely indebted to the methods of phenomenology, a field of philosophy pioneered by Edmund Husserl and radically developed by Martin Heidegger. While the two had very different approaches and method, they were both concerned with how we see reality, how certain structures in our minds and the worlds we inhabit affect how we see certain things. Marion picks this up to explore different ways we can see God, his two primary modes being idols and icons. It would be a problem if we thought these two categories denoted two different sets of objects, as that would miss Marion's central point that the gaze makes the idol, not the idol the gaze. In seeing the idol, we think we see all there is to see of the divine, while in seeing the icon, we find ourselves thrust back by something beyond ourselves. Idols are a reassurance that we are the ones in control, while icons disrupt that very sense of control, which is why Marion starts styling the word God with an X across the O, implanting it with the mark of the cross, and by doing so, the unthinkable enters into the field of our thought, only by rendering itself unthinkable there by excess, that is, by criticizing our thought. In styling the word the way he does, Marion is drawing attention to the way in which our own material reality is always overflowing from beyond, God as love overflowing and saturating all the phenomena we observe. However, the way we discuss the phenomena affects our ability to see it as such. For this, he turns to the story in Luke 15. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So he divided his property between them. Most modern translations of this verse lose one of the key elements of the original, the words estate and property being incredibly common, although the King James translation fares significantly better, using goods and living, which get to the original contrast in the Greek. The son's original request was for his ousia, Greek for wealth, property, or substance. Contrast this with what the father divides up, his bios, which refers to a way of life. The words used show the way that both characters in the story see what is being divided up, and how limited the son's vision really is. For the son, he merely sees what his father gives him as goods disposable for possession and power. This limited vision contributes to the gift being lost. In the words of Marion, landed property, now without ground, becomes liquid money, which, by definition, seeps and trickles between the fingers. The reason for the concrete dissipation of ousia is found in a first and fundamental dissipation, the transformation of the ousia into liquid money, which itself results from the abandonment of the paternal gift as place, meaning, and legitimacy of the enjoyment of the ousia. This abandonment of the paternal gift is demonstrated by the son's moving away and using the ousia given to him and squandering it. The following famine symbolizes his loss of connection to something greater due to his mistreatment of the gift. Lost and starving, he no longer even hopes for filiation, but only for the good of swine, or, at best, the treatment of a hireling. With our way of seeing things now perhaps better attuned, let's return to Palin's view on the world.
That's a great question. I think a lot about the Department of Energy because energy is my baby. Oil and gas and minerals, those things that God has dumped on this part of the earth for mankind's use.
To her, our world is simply composed of things that God has dumped on this part of the earth for mankind's use. In other words, the world is simply ousia, substance to be spent and squandered. For her, the world is not bios, it has no life or goodness beyond her and people's ability to use it. This Christian anthropocentrism has often been justified by the creation story in Genesis, where mankind is made in God's image to rule or reign over nature. This is a rather unique view among the world's religions, as historian Lynn White points out. Christianity, in absolute contrast to ancient paganism and Asia's religions, not only established a dualism of man and nature, but also insisted that it is God's will that man exploit nature for his proper ends. By destroying pagan animism, Christianity made it possible to exploit nature in a mood of indifference to the feelings of natural objects. In other words, elements of the Christian narrative give justification for the squandering of the earth as pure ousia, something that we cannot afford to continue. But the way forward is not simply going to be a matter of better technology. It will require a radical rethinking of our place amidst creation. The philosophical foundations have been set, and heavily interpreted by numerous Christian theologians and philosophers, helping us cultivate a way of seeing the world with a new vision.